أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والتين والزيتون وطور سينين وهذا البلد الأمين. لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون. فما يكذبك بعد بالدين؟ أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين؟ صدق الله العلي العظيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك يا خيرة الله وابن خيرته، السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وابن سيد الوصيين، السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور، السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك، عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار. يا أبا عبد الله، لقد عظمت الرزية وجلت وعظمت المصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل الإسلام، وجلت وعظمت مصيبتك في السماوات على جميع أهل السماوات. فلعن الله أمة أسست أساس الظلم والجور عليكم أهل البيت، ولعن الله أمة دفعتكم عن مقامكم وأزالتكم عن مراتبكم التي رتبكم الله فيها، ولعن الله أمة قتلتكم، ولعن الله الممهدين لهم بالتمكين من قتالكم، برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم ومن أشياعهم وأتباعهم وأوليائهم. يا أبا عبد الله، إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم إلى يوم القيامة. ولعن الله آل زياد وآل مروان، ولعن الله بني أمية قاطبة، ولعن الله ابن مرجانة، ولعن الله عمر بن سعد، ولعن الله شمرا، ولعن الله أمة أسرجت وألجمت وتنقبت لقتال. بأبي أنت وأمي لقد عظم مصائبك، فأسأل الله الذي أكرم مقامك وأكرمني بك أن يرزقني طلب ثارك مع إمام منصور من أهل بيت محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم اجعلني عندك وجيها بالحسين عليه السلام في الدنيا والآخرة. يا أبا عبد الله، إني أتقرب إلى الله وإلى رسوله وإلى أمير المؤمنين وإلى فاطمة وإلى الحسن وإليك بمضالاتك وبالبراءة ممن قاتلك ونصب لك الحرب، وبالبراءة ممن أسس أساس الظلم والجور عليكم. وأبرأ إلى الله وإلى رسوله ممن أسس أساس ذلك وبنى عليه بنيانا وجرى في ظلمه وجوره عليكم وعلى أشيائكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم، وتقرب إلى الله ثم إليكم بمضالاتكم ومضالاة وليكم، وبالبراءة من أعدائكم والناصبين لكم الحرب، وبالبراءة من أشيائهم وأتباعهم. إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم وولي لمن والاكم وعدو لمن عاداكم. فأسأل الله الذي أكرمني بمعرفتكم ومعرفة أوليائكم ورزقني البراءة من أعدائكم أن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة، وأن يثبتني عندكم قدم صدق في الدنيا والآخرة. وأسأله أن يبلغني المقام المحمود لكم عند الله، وأن يرزقني طلب ثاري مع إمام هدى ظاهر ناطق بالحق منكم. وأسأل الله بحقكم وبالشأن الذي لكم عنده أن يعطيني بمصابي بكم أفضل ما يعطي مصابا بمصيبته، مصيبة ما أعظمها وأعظم رزيتها في الإسلام وفي جميع السماوات والأرض. اللهم اجعلني في مقامي هذا ممن تناله منك صلوات ورحمة ومغفرة. اللهم اجعل محياي محيا محمد وآل محمد، ومماتي ممات محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إن هذا يوم تبركت به بنو أمية وابن آكلة الأكباد اللعين ابن اللعين على لسانك ولسان نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله في كل موطن وموقف وقف فيه نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم لعن أبا سفيان ومعاوية ويزيد ابن معاوية عليهم منك اللعنة أبد العابدين. وهذا يوم فرحت به آل زياد وآل مروان بقتلهم الحسين صلوات الله عليه. اللهم فضاعف عليهم اللعن منك والعذاب الأليم. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك في هذا اليوم وفي موقفي هذا وأيام حياتي بالبراءة منهم واللعنة عليهم وبالموالاة لنبيك وآل نبيك عليه وعليهم السلام. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. اللهم خص أنت أول ظالم باللعن مني وابدأ به أولا ثم العن الثاني والثالث والرابع. اللهم العن يزيد خامسا والعن عبيد الله بن زياد وابن مرجانة وعمر بن سعد وشمرة وآل أبي سفيان وآل زياد وآل مروان إلى يوم القيامة. اللهم لك الحمد حمد الشاكرين لك على مصابهم. الحمد لله على عظيم رزيتي. اللهم ارزقني شفاعة الحسين يوم الورود وثبت لي قدم صدق عندك مع الحسين وأصحاب الحسين الذين بذلوا مهجهم دون الحسين عليه السلام.
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. At this time, inshallah, we'll continue the program with the recitation of Mercy and Salam. First by Brother Zunair Raza with the loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. مجرئی خلق میں ان آنکھوں نے کیا کیا دیکھا، مجرئی خلق میں ان آنکھوں نے کیا کیا دیکھا، پر کہیں سبتے پیمبر سنا آقا دیکھا، مجرئی خلق میں میں نے دیکھا عالم شاہ کو آلودہ بخون، میں نے دیکھا عالم شاہ کو آلودہ بخون، میں نے نیزے پہ سرے دلبر زہرا دیکھا، مجرئی خلق میں میں نے دیکھا علی اصغر کا گلا خون میں تر، میں نے دیکھا علی اصغر کا گلا خون میں تر، میں نے عباس کو ریتی پہ تڑپتا دیکھا، مجرئی خلق میں ایک گٹھڑی شہدی پشت پہ لائے جس میں ایک گٹھڑی شہدی پشت پہ لائے جس میں میں نے ٹکڑے ہوئے قاسم کا سراپا دیکھا، مجرئی خلق میں گر پڑے سبت نبی تھام کے ہاتھوں سے جگر، گر پڑے سبط نبی تھام کے ہاتھوں سے جگر، علی اکبر کا جو ریتی پہ تڑپتا دیکھا، مجھ رہی خلق میں بے ردا خلق نے اس بی بی کے سر کو دیکھا، بے ردا خلق نے اس بی بی کے سر کو دیکھا، جس کی مادر کا کسی نے نہ جنازہ دیکھا، مجھ رہی خلق میں ہائے کیوں ہو نہ گئی کور کے ان آنکھوں نے، ہائے کیوں ہو نہ گئی کور کے ان آنکھوں نے، قید خانے میں سکینہ کا جنازہ دیکھا، مجھ رہی خلق میں ظلم ہے مجھ رہی سجاد نے کیا کیا دیکھا، ظلم ہے مجھ رہی سجاد نے کیا کیا دیکھا، گھر لوٹا قید ہوئے باپ کا لاشا دیکھا، مجھ رہی خلق میں ان آنکھوں نے کیا کیا دیکھا، پر کہیں سبط پیمبر سانا آقا دیکھا، مجھ رہی خلق میں بر محمد و آل محمد صلوات.
Jazakallah khair, Brother Zunair. One more loud salawat, please. At this time, I'd like to request Brother Hassan Abbas Kanani for recitation of Marsiya with Allah salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
بار دیگر بآواز بلندتر صلوات. اس طرح زہرا نے بار دیگر بآواز بلند تر صلوات. اس طرح زہرا نے دامن کو بچھایا ریت پہ. اس طرح زہرا نے دامن کو بچھایا ریت پہ. اس طرح زہرا نے دامن کو بچھایا ریت پہ. کٹ گیا مسلم کا سے لیکن آیا ریت پہ. اس طرح زہرا نے دامن کو بچھایا ریت پہ. اس طرح زہرا نے دامن کو بچھایا ریت پہ. لاش کوفہ میں گری تھی بعد میں مسلم تیری. لاش کوفہ میں گری تھی بعد میں مسلم تیری. پہلے سے شبیر نے اپنا گرایا ریت پہ. اس طرح زہرا نے دامن کو بچھایا ریت پہ. رو پڑا باس کا سے دختر مسلم نے جب. رو پڑا باس کا سے دختر مسلم نے جب. بیسرے بازار بابا کو بلایا ریت پہ. اس طرح زہرا نے دامن کو بچھایا ریت پہ. اے خدا شوہ کے غم میں یوں نہ بیٹھے پھر کوئی. اے خدا شوہ کے غم میں یوں نہ بیٹھے پھر کوئی. جیسے قسمت نے رقیہ کو بٹھایا ریت پہ. اس طرح زہرا نے دامن کو بچھایا ریت پہ. دیکھ کے مسلم کی آنکھیں خون روتی رہ گئی. دیکھ کے مسلم کی آنکھیں خون روتی رہ گئی. بیردائی میں کھڑی زینب کا سایہ ریت پہ. اس طرح زہرا نے دامن کو بچھایا ریت پہ. راہ کوفہ جانتی ہے جب تماچوں سے گری. راہ کوفہ جانتی ہے جب تماچوں سے گری. سوگ مسلم سوگ مسلم کا سکینہ نے منایا ریت پہ، اس طرح زہرا نے دامن کو بچھایا ریت پہ، ہر طرف پھیلی ہوئی ہے خون مسلم کی مہک، ہر طرف پھیلی ہوئی ہے خون مسلم کی مہک، اس طرح ظالموں نے لاشیں کو پھرایا ریت پہ، اور احترام گے گئے اس جگہ بوسے دیے، احترام گے گئے اس جگہ بوسے دیے، خون عابد نے جگہ مسلم کا پایا ریت پہ، اس طرح زغرا نے دامن کو بچھایا ریت پہ، دیکھنے آئی ہے بہنے جون بہنے راسیا، دیکھنے آئی ہے بہنے جون بہنے راسیا، کس طرح مسلم نے گئے مقتل بسایا ریت پہ، اس طرح زغرا نے دامن کو بچھایا ریت پہ، صلوات۔
Jazakallah khair, Brother Hassan Abbas Kanani. One more last salawat for him. At this time, I'd like to request Brother Kashif Zaidi for recitation with Allah salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
جو بھی مصروف سلام شہداء رہتا ہے، گو وہ رہتا نہیں پر نام سدا رہتا ہے، جو بھی مصروف سلام شہداء رہتا ہے، شمر کہتا تھا یہی ماں ہے علی اکبر کی، شمر کہتا تھا یہی ماں ہے علی اکبر کی، جس کا ایک ہاتھ کلیجے پہ دھرا رہتا ہے، جو بھی مصروف سلام میں ہے یہ شرمندگی پانی کے نہ پہنچانے کی، ہے یہ شرمندگی پانی کے نہ پہنچانے کی، نیزے پہ بھی سر عباس جھکا رہتا ہے، جو بھی مصروف سلام میں شام ہوتی ہے تو اونٹوں سے اترتے ہیں حرام، پر سر شاہ تو نیزے پہ چڑھا رہتا ہے، جو بھی مصروف سلام میں شاہدار رہتا ہے، روکے یہ ہند کی بیٹی نے سکینہ سے کہا، سر تیرا کس لیے ہر وقت کھلا رہتا ہے، ارے وہ لگی کہنے یتیموں کی نشانی ہے یہی، کرتا بیوار سی بچوں کا پھٹا رہتا ہے، جو بھی مصروف سلام میں شاہدار رہتا ہے، گو وہ رہتا نہیں پر نام سدا رہتا ہے، اور محمد و آل محمد صلوات.
Jazakallah khair. Brother Kashif, I one more loud salawat for him. Respected Sheikh, elders, brothers and sisters of faith, Assalamu alaikum. Our condolences to the Imam of our time and all Mu'mineen and Mu'minat on the martyrdom of Aba Abdullah alayhi salam and his companions. We are honored to have Sheikh Amin Rastani speak at this Ashura here at CFK. Jazakallah Sheikh, the community looks forward to listening to and learning from your speeches. Just a few reminders before I request the Sheikh to begin. Like previous years, the programs for this year's Ashura Majlis are scheduled to begin at 6:55 p.m. with the recitation of the Holy Quran and Ziyat Ashura, to end with Salat and to go Niyaz. CFK will also be hosting two private majalises during this Ashra. The first being an Urdu Majlis hosted by Brother Sultan Rizvi and family at 7:30 in the morning with speech by Maulana Mudassir Muswi Shah. The second is a Farsi Majalis with Sheikh Amin Rastani beginning immediately after Salatul Maghriban. Huiz Hussain will be having a blood drive at CFK on Wednesday, July 26th. Please pre-registered. Momineen are encouraged to take part. Currently, there are 40 slots open and 6 days left to register. The link to register is present on our WhatsApp and email announcements. Here at CFK, we aim to serve the community while being responsible with your donations, as it is your contribution that enables us to bring to you great speakers and keep our doors open in this trying economy. We thank you for doing your part in helping us to achieve this objective by pre-registering using the links present on our WhatsApp and email announcements. We also do not do any active fundraising between programs. Sponsorship slots are available online and updated every week at cfkdfw.org. We request that you contribute as much as you can and become part of the Azadari for Abu Abdullah. Alhamdulillah, we are blessed with the tawfiq of attending Majalis of Sayyid al-Shuhada and with the intention to accommodate all attendees. We request all brothers and sisters to come forward and fill in empty slots around us so that we can accommodate as many mu'mineen as we can without disturbing the Sheikh and our attendees during the speech. We also request that the attendees work with our parking volunteers and carpool if possible to get the most use out of the limited parking spots. A reminder for everyone's safe and security, please do not park in the fire lanes. A reminder that we do have a dedicated mother's room. This room has a live feed and has been set up so our kids can be accompanied by their mothers and get accustomed to sitting and listening to the programs in a lighter, less restrictive setting. With this, we hope to bring ease to our programs, attendees, and mothers for these upcoming nights. As always, the event details are posted on our webpage and our WhatsApp group. On our website, you can sign up for our newsletter, find the QR code to join our WhatsApp group, and to donate and sponsor these holy nights. For opportunities to help behind the scenes, please speak to Brother Zunair Raza, myself, or any of the other volunteers. Before I request the Sheikh to ascend, I would like to request that we recite a Surah Fatiha for the marhumin of tonight's program sponsors. Let us also include our own marhumin and mu'minat and those of the Muslim Ummah. At this time, I would like to request Sheikh Amin Rastani to ascend the member to address the mu'mineen tonight with Allah salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And brothers and sisters, if you could still keep moving forward and as close together as possible, there are many more that will be inshallah attending. With Allah salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعن الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created all of us for one purpose, as the Quran says. Of course, that's not the ultimate purpose, but that is the means to the ultimate purpose that the Quran speaks about. When it says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسِ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, I created you for one thing, to serve me, to be an abd of me. An abd doesn't say why. doesn't question, just does as they are told. Shaitan failed that test, of course. And so it is upon us and up to us to make the same decision or a different decision than Shaitan did. And so that's why we are here. Both jinn and mankind, we have this life of ours to reach a point where we are proper servants and abds of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, in order to reach this ubudiyyah, in order to reach this rank of being an abd of Allah, one who doesn't question Allah, it's okay to ask questions, but it's not okay to question Him. There's a difference between these two, obviously. The angels asked questions. They said, oh Allah, what's going on? This person that you created, you want us to do sajda? Allah said, don't worry about it. They said, okay. Shaitan, on the other hand, he didn't just ask questions, he questioned God and God's authority. And he started to argue with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he suffered with the same problem that some of us might have to figure out, inshallah, on these nights, especially as I mentioned last night. And that is the ana, the me. He said, you created me from fire. He brought me into the equation. When you bring me into the equation, things get a little messy. We'll talk about that more, inshallah. But on the way to reaching Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and being an abd of Allah, there are different things that can help us. Aside from the obedience that I mentioned, one of them being worship, one of them that allows us to get closer and closer to Allah, to gain more nur and illumination, is the calamities that befall us. And that's what we want to talk about tonight. Now, before I get into that, I just want to, because this is kind of connected to last night, I want to give a recap of last night very quickly. Last night, the point I was trying to make was that, number one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His love for us is based on rahmah. Because it is based on rahmah, we can only expect good to come from Him, even though it might not seem good to us sometimes. If that's the case, that Allah's love is based on rahmah and rahmaniyya, then the Ahlul Bayt, which are His chosen ones, or the prophets of God, which are His chosen ones, their love for us is going to also be the same. It's going to be one based on rahmah, and that is why Allah has entrusted them with so much wilayah, to the point that Prophet Dawood, he can intervene in the natural world. Prophet Sulaiman can intervene in the natural world. You can only trust someone with such authority when you know that they love the rest more than anybody else. Okay, so Allah's love is based on rahmah. The chosen ones of Allah, the awliya, their love towards us is one based on rahmah, to the point that they're entrusted with ultimate and absolute wilayah. And finally, I wanted to make it to this point here, that when you look at what Imam Hussein did on the night of Ashura, what he did was, he exhibited the utmost love for the ones that were around him. How? He made sure that if they're going to stay with him, they understand that although I show you love, just the way Allah shows us love, but understand that even though it might seem like I might need you, but I don't need you. The same way Allah words things in a way as if He needs us, but He doesn't need us. Because He loves us so much, He might sound like He needs our love, but He doesn't need our love. Abu Abdullah Hussein on the night of Ashura wants to make sure these ones who are going to lose their lives tomorrow, I want to make sure that there's no me in them left anymore. And so I'm going to let them know that I don't need them. Tonight is the night of Ashura, all of you go. It's crazy. He even addressed Abul Fadl Abbas, because Abul Fadl Abbas, they said, was the first one who got up and objected and said, there's no way we're going to leave you. What is Abu Abdullah doing? Making sure that these people who have the potential to become gold do become gold. How? By making sure on that last night they get rid of anything that has to do with their ego and me. Letting them know that I don't need you tomorrow. They're after me, they'll get me. It's not like you can make much of a difference anyway for me. They're in the thousands, we're in the tens. Yeah? But what we can make sure that we get out of all of this is that we make it to the destination. So I'm going to get rid of all the meanness in you. This goes back to the love of Imam Hussein, which is based on the rahmah. So having said all of that last night, I want to pick up kind of where I left off, that this ubudiyyah that Allah wants from us in this life, He wants us to reach a point where we are an actual servant of His. Now, I use the word servant, but the real word is what? Abd equals slave. But that comes with negative connotations, we don't use it. Oh God, why does God want slaves, this and that? for himself? Does he need us, etc., etc.? Slave is a negative term because it shows that we're nothing. Yeah, well, okay, we'll use another word, servant, if that's a little prettier, okay? That's the word we'll use. But you have to understand, when I say servant, what do I mean? I mean abd. So whatever your translation or our translation of abd is going to be. To reach this point of ultimate ubudiyah, which means that I acknowledge someone else is my master, what do I have to do? I have to reach a point where the me is slaughtered. The more me, the less ubudiyah. The more ubudiyah, the less me. Like these two, they don't get along with each other. Ana and Allah. They don't get along too much. Shaitan, as I said, what did he do? He made the mistake of bringing ana into the equation. Right when Allah said, do sajda, he said, ana khayrun min. The sentence starts with ana, me. I am better than him. Wait a minute. When was this about you? Who cares about you? I will worship you, O Allah, the way no one has ever worshipped. I will do sajda to you for eternity. Oh, just don't make me do sajda to Adam. Allah said, I want to be obeyed the way I want to be obeyed. It's all about me. It's not about you. But you keep bringing this I and me in the beginning of your sentence. You're losing me. Us as people who want to stay away from that, we have to sacrifice and slaughter that me. And so there are different ways, as I said. One of them is through worship. One of them happens automatically through calamities that befall us. And that's what we want to talk about tonight, inshallah. So we want to see what the role of hardships are in our journey towards Allah. Because as I said last night, we all have our hardships. We all are going through something. And then when we go through these hardships that we go through and their effect for us towards Allah, we want to talk about the difference between worship and calamity. There's two differences that are very nice that have to do with calamity versus worship. Something that calamities do for us in our journey towards ubudiyah that worship sometimes might not be able to do for us. Now, when I say this, I'm not going to mean like we have to do dua for bala and tragedy. Don't worry, it'll come. Okay? Sometimes people, they get all irfani and spiritual. They feel like we want to reach Allah sooner. And so let us die sooner than before. Oh Allah, kill me. What kind of dua is this? The Imams never had a dua like this. Oh Allah, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, Allahumma kill me. We don't have a dua like that. What we do, don't worry, death will come. Okay, then, oh Allah, give me bala. We don't have a dua for that. Don't worry, it'll come. It'll come. But once we figure out the difference between these two, worship versus bala, we'll see that bala sometimes can play a role that worship cannot play in our journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then, once we talk about this difference between calamity versus worship and its effect and contribution to us in our growth and getting closer to Allah, then we want to see what the difference between calamities of a normal person are and the calamities of the awliyaullah are. There's a difference there as well. So two types of difference we're going to talk about tonight. One, difference between calamity and worship. And then two, differences the calamity of a normal person and the calamities of the awliyaullah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. All right, let us begin. They say there are two differences between the calamities that we go through and in their effect that they have on us getting closer to Allah versus worship. Yes, both of these can get us closer to Allah, absolutely. But there are two things when it comes to calamity and bala and hardship that worship lacks. Worship, whether we like it or not, worship has a little bit of a vulnerability. What is that vulnerability? Well, when we do worship, brothers and sisters, sometimes, and usually this is the case in the beginning, when we're on the beginning of that journey towards Allah, we might feel like a little special about ourselves. When we do worship, yeah, when it's that salat that I do, whether it's that sadaqah that I give, whether it's this, whether it's that, if I'm a scholar, let's say, the book that I write, the lecture that I gave, all of these things. You sometimes, whether we like it or not, because the iman is still low, the iman that we have is still a weak one, we might feel a little proud about that. We might have a little bit of ujb, as they call it, which is okay. I'm not doing this worship so that I get praised by others. I'm not doing riyah, in other words. I'm not trying to show off. But there's an ujb, they call it there. Ujb means that you feel proud about yourself a little bit. You pat yourself on the back. Yeah? It's fine. It just shows we still have work to do though. Okay? That's the difference here. All right. When we do worship, there's a chance of this. But bala doesn't have this. When I do worship, sometimes you'll be like, sometimes the people's tones will change when they do worship, right? In Farsi, they'll say, Khudaya Amadam. Oh Allah, I'm here. Where are you, oh Allah? I'm here. We made it. Where are you now, Allah? In other words, Allah, now do your part. Relax. And there's some hadith that say some people, they do salat, then they're waiting for to see angels after it. Relax. So sometimes it reaches that point where we feel like there's something special. Sometimes it goes even further. Sometimes certain things that are deficiencies on our part, we will attribute those to Allah, the negatives. And then the positives of Allah we will attribute to ourselves. And of course, this once again, it has to do with the patience of Allah towards us. He knows what we are. He knows the children. He knows the 40-year-old child that I am. And so He doesn't hold me accountable right away for that stupidity that I might show or I might have in the back of my mind. But please, oh Allah, please, if I'm that dumb right now when I'm 40, at least when I'm 80, I hope I'm not in the same situation. Okay? When I'm 80 years old, inshallah, I'm not that type of person where I'm like, oh Allah, I'm here. Where are you? Or, oh Allah, there's some bad, it's your fault, and there's some good, it's my fault. No, Imam Ali teaches us, for example, in the famous munajat that he has in the Masjid of Kufa, what does he say? He makes everyone know and lets everyone know that me, the best of the best, is the lowest of the low when it comes to Allah. Ilahi anal faqir, antal ghani anal faqir, antal qawi anal da'if. The one who tore off the door of Khaybar says, I'm weak. In other words, if there's any deficiency, it's here. Or like Imam Hussein in Dua Arafat towards the end of it, that extra part that they've added, أنا الفقير في غنايا فكيف لا أكون فقيرا في فقري. Oh Allah, when I am wealthy, I'm poor. I am in need still. I am faqir. When I'm ghani, I'm faqir. So what if when I'm faqir, of course I'm going to be faqir. So 3 times the Imam mentions faqir, 1 time he says ghani. إلهي أنا الفقير في غناي فكيف لا. So how is it that I can be wealthy when I'm poor, in my poorness? In other words, oh Allah, all the merits are from you. I'm zero. That's what it is. Or for example, when Imam Sajjad, he says, oh Allah, أنا أقل الأقلين. I am the lowest of the low. I said this once somewhere. One of these brothers, he kind of looked at me as a muqassir. He said, oh Maulana, you're bringing the Imams down. The Imam Sajjad said, Ana aqallul aqali, I'm the lowest of the low. How dare you say Imam Sajjad is the lowest of the low? I'm like, dude, please, I understand. Trust me, I'm more malang than you are, okay? If the Imam says this, he's looking at it from a certain perspective. He's saying, oh Allah, compared to you, I am the lowest of the low. The highest of the high here, compared to others, are the lowest of the low compared to Allah. It's very simple. It's just this idea that where do we all get our existence from? It doesn't matter if you are one of the greatest angels of God. It doesn't matter if you're one of the greatest ma'sumin. It doesn't matter if you're the Holy Prophet. If you are getting your existence from someone else, you are the lowest of the low compared to him. It's very simple. It's a theological discussion. Yes, compared to the others, Imam Sajjad is not aqallul aqallin. Let's make that clear. Okay? He is the highest of the high. But the point being that just because I do certain worship, sometimes I feel like, I've gotten somewhere. Before you know it, that same worship is what's getting me in trouble. I've idolized it too much. And so we have hadiths that are pretty interesting about how Allah prefers that you don't do certain worships if that's going to cause certain arrogance for you and egotism for you. How Allah sometimes will even put you in a situation that you might even fall into sin through your own free will, of course, just so that you break in front of Allah and you understand that, okay, there's nothing special about me. And guys, let me just say this on the side in parentheses, that when we call others out for mistakes they've made, for sins they've committed, etc., yeah, be careful. Because there's nothing special about me that I didn't fall into the same mistake and sin as that person. And it is very likely that Allah, because He loves us, He will put us in the same situation in the future. So we also fall into that sense. So he says, so he lets us know that, look, there was nothing special about you. Just to get rid of that arrogance, because you don't want to take any of that me. We don't want to take any of that with us onto the other side. Okay. So this is about worship. Calamities and hardship don't have this problem. Don't have this vulnerability. They're immune to this. When a person is sick, now it's easy for us to talk about people who are sick right now when we're sitting here healthy and sound. But personally, I experience this almost every time I have a bad sickness, that I hate myself. Ain't no pride there. There's no ego there. Yeah, if I do something, a heavy worship, yeah, I'll feel proud. But when I have a heavy sickness, is there any ego left? No, you're destroyed. As a matter of fact, we have some hadith that say, I think it was Imam al-Rida, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, that when this person is sick and they're moaning and aching, this is a dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Practically though, it makes sense. That's what it is, because when you're moaning and aching, what are you saying? You're saying, man, I'm nothing special. Man, I'm nothing special. Oh, man, I'm nothing special. Yeah? But the moment you get better, yes, back to normal, huh? And so, this one example. Another example, Imam al-Sadiq salawatullah wa salamu alayhi, he has a hadith where he validates this notion that, yeah, when you're sick, you're nothing. You see, there's this word, this key word that we're going to use and we should keep in mind. It's called inkisar. Inkisar, right? In Arabic and Farsi, probably Urdu, you have it kasr, to break something. Inkisar is when you break, right? Not break physically, although it's used for that as well. But inkisar in a spiritual context means when you are being humbled, when you are humbled and you break before Allah, when that ego is cracked. Okay, this is what we're after. So here, Imam al-Sadiq in this hadith, he says that the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Lawla thalathun fi ibn Adam ma ta'ta'a ra'sahu shay'un." It's interesting. He said that if it wasn't for three things in the children of Adam, nothing would be able to bend this person's neck. In other words, humble them, bring them down to earth. Oh Allah, I'm here, where are you at? No, come back down. Nothing would be able to bring them down, except for these three, which we probably can guess some of them. Al-marad, al-faqr, al-maut. These three. Now, kulluhum fih, the Imam says. These are all in an individual. We all will go through a time, we'll have these three for us, okay? We'll have marad, we'll have maut for sure. These two for sure happen. There's no one out there who doesn't get sick at all, especially in this day and age with the genetically modified foods and all the other trash that they give us to eat. But even in the past, people were always getting sick. All right, just this faqr one. Usually, we're broke as Muslims, right? There might be few people that are born wealthy and all that, but all in all, it's a general rule that applies to a lot of people. The Imam says if it wasn't for these three things, nothing would break mankind. Nothing would bring inkisar to mankind. And this part's the interesting part. I actually chuckled at this when I read it for the first time. وَإِنَّهُ مَعَهُنَّ لَوَثَّابَ. So when I saw it, I was like, what is it? Is that what I think it is? I was like, no. So I had to pull up the translation. I was like, let me make sure. And sure enough, that's what it means. It says, the Imam says, these three happen to everybody. But and although people have these three, marad, faqr, maut, still they are wathab. Wathab means they jump up and down still and they're making noise. As if there's somebody. Wathab, they jumping up and down. Another hadith, the Holy Prophet ﷺ, he visited Salman al-Farsi when Salman was ill and told him Allah will give him three things as a result of this illness. He said, number one, and this is the most important one for our discussion, Anta min Allahi bi-dhukrin or bi-dhikrin. That when you are ill and sick, yeah, you remember Allah more. Inkisar. That's so crazy though. I'm supposed to remember Allah when I worship, and I do. But afterwards, this pride that sometimes might creep its way in, yeah, is in reality getting rid of the dhikr that I had before. But here when you get sick, the dhikr is a proper one. Like you actually feel like nothing can help you, not even the vaccine anymore. And you're just like, Khuda, Khuda, help me. Du'a'aka fiha mustajab. O Salman, when you're sick, your dua is answered. And لا تدع العلة عليك ذنبا إلا حطته. That this, when you are sick and ill, yes, the sins that you have are also wiped out. Okay, but the first part is the important part for us right now, is that sickness, which is a calamity, which is a hardship, and is the, I would say, is the easiest of the hardships, because you know after 2, 3, 4 days you recover. If you're in Iran, they'll give you a steroid shot, 2 hours later you're up and running. Okay, those were the best. I've told some of you this before. The steroid shots were the best until we found out they're steroid shots. Yeah, but it's too late. Oh, they've already pumped that into us for 20 years, so that explains certain things of a shorter life that we might have in the future. Anyway, another story that I want to share with you about inkisar. I just want to highlight this idea of inkisar and how important it is. Ayatollah Nokhodaki Isfahani. Interesting individual. There's a book written on him as well. I don't know if it's translated to English. I doubt it. He is buried across from, in the shrine of Imam Rida, that nice courtyard, the nicest courtyard. I think it's called Azadi. I'm not sure. Where that big window is that you, some of you, those of you who have gone, you've seen the window that people connect, they link themselves to, chain themselves to sometimes. The ones who have a hajat or they have an illness and stuff like that. Across from that, there's a wall on the other side at the entrance of that courtyard. That's where he's buried. And so you'll see these Hajj khanums, these aunties, sometimes they're standing there doing dua and stuff. It's because they know he's buried there. He was a arif, he was great. And he has some interesting stories. Anyway, they say he was passing by once this same window, which in Farsi we call it Panjareye Fulad. And he sees these people who have attached themselves to this window that is, when you look into it, you see the grave of Imam Rida, the Zarih of Imam Rida. He says, he whispers that, good for you guys, or like, lucky you all. And so someone hears this and says, wait a minute, you're happy for us. What do you mean? Like, yeah, you're all good, you're good and everything, you're sound, you're healthy, and you're telling us good for you? What do you mean? He says, I'm not saying good for you because you're sick or suffering and ailing, no. I'm saying good for you because you've reached the point of inkisar, that you see that the only way you have is this way, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Now, in parentheses, let me say this by the way. Some of us might sometimes want to do something like this to get something from Allah. I'll just share with you what one of our teachers said once. And he was one of those ones that was more spiritual too. He said, look, if you're going to do something like that, this is in parentheses, if you're going to do something like that where you attach yourself to the, for example, darih, or you are going to isolate yourself until you get your hajah, he said, you don't leave until you get your hajah. Nothing in between. So don't embark on this unless you're going to go all the way, which is very interesting. Because if you leave without getting it, then that might cause issues. That's a story for itself. We don't want to get into, but there is that. These ulama, some of them have mentioned this matter. Anyway, which brings me to, now, I'm not a very poetic person myself, but I want to share some poetry with you. It's something that I really like. It's famous poetry from a person by the name of Majzoub Tabrizi, okay? It's Farsi poetry. Let's see how much you guys get from it. That has to do with how everything revolves around destroying that me. Imam Hussein, the ultimate love he had for his companions, he made sure there's no me in them. We are here for ubudiyya and servitude and reaching Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through initially getting rid of that me. When we obey him, when we prefer what he wants over what I want, that means I'm slaughtering the nafs, slaughtering the me and the self, that bad me that doesn't want what Allah wants, okay? Here, it's famous. Now, the Iranians here probably have heard this one, the 5 or 6 Iranians that we have here. It says, Yek shab atash dar neyestani futad. That one night, a fire fell into a neyestan. Ney in Arabic or in Farsi means a straw or a cane, the hollow cane. A hollow cane. So neyestan we know what Ostan means, right? That's why you guys have Pakistan, the place of the Pak people. Ostan means a place of something, right? Nayastan is a place that's full of these canes or these straws that are hollow inside, okay? Now, a fire falls in this Nayastan. Obviously, what's going to happen? They're all going to start, what's it called? What's the verb? Burning. That's the verb. All right. It says, "Sukh chon ashki ke bar jani futad." They started burning everything. Leta sargarm kar khish shod. When this flame began doing its thing of burning all these straws, and this is my favorite part actually, it's not relevant to our discussion, but every one of these straws became the candle of its own grave. Isn't that nice? That these straws, one by one, are turning on fire. They look like a candle now. So this candle is dying, this straw is dying because it's burning, but because it looks like a candle at the same time, it has become the candle of its own grave and death. When someone dies, we put a candle for them, right? Each straw became the candle of its own death and grave. Okay, this is just something on the side, just so you know that I know some poetry. All right, now this is the important part though. Ne be'atash goft. The straw turns around and tells the flame, "What are you doing? Kin ashub cheese. What is all this chaos and what are you doing?" Martoraz in sukhtan matlub cheese. What are you after? Goft atash bi sabab mafrukhtam. The fire, the flame said, "I'm not doing this for no reason. There's a reason behind why I'm doing what I'm doing." Da'viya bi ma'niyat ra sukhta. That hollow claim that you had of yourself, I'm destroying that. And so here they explain this poetry. They say, look, in Persian poetry at least, the nay, the straw, or the cane, whatever you want to call it, represents insan. Because we are hollow, ain't much going on here, but we make a lot of noise. Fir'aun says, "I am the Lord of the worlds." Well, dude, you still go to the bathroom like everybody else, you know what I'm saying? You are a straw that's hollow. The things that are hollow, unfortunately, make the most noise. Okay? Now, that's a nay in Persian poetry. The fire is the fire of what? Fire of hardship and bala and tragedy and calamity. This fire that comes to us of tragedies and calamities, you know what it's doing? It is destroying the me. It is saying, don't make all this noise, I am this, I am that. Practically, even though I might not say it, practically we sometimes feel like we're walking gods on the earth. And so the fire has to come, the fire of hardship and calamity has to come, tell us to relax and tone it down a little bit. That meaningless claim of yours, I destroyed it. All right, and so finally, one more thing, just to highlight even more this idea of how hardship in this life is for one thing, and that's inkisar. Yeah, Ayatollah Falsafi, he's famous. He was a big lecturer in his time, before the revolution, and even after, I think, unless he passed away before, I don't remember exactly. But he was big, he was very big. And so this Ayatollah Falsafi, it says that he was sitting with a bunch of people once, and they were talking about how, some people were talking about how as you get older and older, you start losing more and more things, more and more faculties, etc. Yeah? I was this, I was that, now look at me, this and that. Kind of like my situation right now, guys. All right? You slowly see things are going through your fingers like sand. The things that you had before, the health that you had before, the energy you had before, the liveliness you had before. Although right now when I look at some of you that are older than me, I see that, alhamdulillah, you guys are still more energetic than someone like me. But inshallah, Allah gives all of us health and energy in life. Anyway, they're all talking about the things that they lose in his presence. Ayatollah Falsafi. That we lose this, we lose that. He says, yeah, but guess what old age gives you? It gives you a good cough. So he adds to the problem. He says, not only that, but you're going to cough a lot as well when you get older. Someone in the gathering says, yeah, but Hajaga Sheikh, at least old age gives you inkisar. And that is right. And the Ayatollah Falsafi says, that's right. That is right. That is the most important thing. And so as we gradually move in that direction, Yeah, what happens is that Allah is letting us know that, hey, you're nothing. Slowly, He's not going to do it all of a sudden. He's training us. Now, it just takes someone who has the proper ears to hear the sound or the voice of Allah as He's telling us through our gradual aging that, hey, you're nothing. If don't have the ears, I'll be 85 and I'll say, hey, I'm still 18 years old inside. Yeah, but you're 85 outside and you're about to die. How much has this allowed you to mature? It's fine to feel good and lively and young on the inside. That's not my point right now. That I'm not trying to say that's a problem, that's a bad thing. No. What I am trying to say is that one thing is supposed to come out of this. Yeah? One thing that's supposed to come out of the physical aging that we go through, as we understand that, hey, I am not the same person that I was 20, when I was 18, is to understand that, okay, all that goodness that I had didn't originally belong to me to begin with. That's why I lost it. If it really was mine, yeah, I would never lose it. It shows that it belonged to somebody else who's now gradually taking it back from me. And this allows for one to mature more and more. This inkisar, I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, if we're young and we leave this dunya with some ego, I think God is going to be flexible with us. But as we get older, if we still have that ego, or we've allowed it to even get bigger, then we have a problem. So inshallah, the direction of our lives moves in that direction where we're slowly getting rid of this me. All right, so the first difference we talked about between calamity and worship. Calamity usually is not going to be vulnerable like worship to pride and arrogance and ego, etc. When a person is struggling, when a person is having hardship, that's when they understand the most how helpless and weak they are actually, and that they are not a God walking on earth. Another difference that they've mentioned between calamity and worship in our journey towards Allah and how it contributes to us getting closer and closer to Allah is that when we do worship, at the end of the day, since it's coming from us, since it's originating from us, it's flawed. It falls short. I mean, come on. Comparing the worship that we do to the worship of the likes of, forget about Imam Ali, the worships of the likes of Salman, forget about Salman even, like to the worship of Shaykh Amin Rastani, man, let's just say that. Jokes aside, comparing our worship to the worship of, for example, Salman al-Farsi, if we're going to compare the worship of us, of me, to someone like him, I'm sorry, we have to do istighfar from that salat. So the worship that we do usually is problematic. Who are we kidding? Okay? But guess what? The calamities that befall us, that we go through and we suffer from sometimes, once again, not something to do dua for, it's going to happen anyway. These calamities and hardships, where are they originating from? Are they originating from me? Like the worship that originated from me? No. They originate from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so you can tell that this has the potential to do everything for me to grow and elevate. Only if I react to it in the proper way though. Not when a calamity comes, I start questioning everything, letting go of things that are wajib, for example, or haram, things that I don't observe anymore. No. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to weep. It's okay to wish that thing hadn't happened. That's one thing. But to understand that, look, at the end of the day, Allah has told me that this is what this life is all about. And إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. The ones that a hardship befalls them, they remember and they say, oh Allah, we're from you, or we belong to you, we're going to return. This is temporary. Let's at least have the right reaction. If we have the right reaction, that calamity will do the rest of the work for us. So all of a sudden, these calamities that we dislike so much, at least we understand that there is a functionality to them. And so this is the second difference between worship versus calamity in our journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Recite another salawat. Now, let us come to the calamities of the awliyaullah and connect this to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. The calamities that befall us, that we don't like, that we run away from, that if we embrace them for whatever they are and accept that this is a reality of life, have the potential to raise us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In addition to, of course, the deficient worship that we have. We weren't trying to hate on worship, by the way. Let me just say this. The worship still has to be there in its deficiency. Because I'm telling Allah, oh Allah, although I know my worship is deficient, I'm still doing it because I know this is what you want from me. So let's keep that in mind as well. Okay, so that makes up for the deficiency of our worship. So worship plus all the other stuff that we go through in this life. But if that has the potential to elevate us, the bala of the awliyaullah, the difference between that and the bala that we go through is that my bala is going to personally elevate me, while they say that the one who is one of awliyaullah and goes through their pain and suffering, their bala, it will not just elevate them, it elevates an ummah with them. Okay? And yes, because it's supposed to elevate an ummah with them, it's not going to be your normal everyday standard bala and hardship necessarily. It's not going to be something that is expected for normal people to endure. I'll give you an example. Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, we have a hadith in Usul al-Kafi that the sixth Imam, he said that a person who is free is always free. إِنَّ الْحُرْ حُرٌّ عَلَى جَمِيعِ أَحْوَالِهِ. A free person is always going to be free. Not just in certain situations. Not in certain situations that we flex and we say, I have tawakkul, I have Allah, I'm a free person, this and that. No, in all situations, even when the going gets rough. And so it goes on, the hadith. I'm going to reach to the part that I need here, where it says that Yusuf was ustu'bida, he was taken as a slave. And he was, they had dominion over him and power over him. He was a nobody. And he was taken prisoner and captivated. But the darkness of the well, it didn't affect him. The horror and fright that he had of the darkness of the well didn't get to him. He endured, he was patient. To the extent that Allah, mannallahu alayh, Allah did minnat on him, favored him. And so he made the one that was on top of him, the ruler that was over him, all of a sudden subordinate to him. We all know the story because there's a movie on it. بعد إذ كان له مالكا فأرسله ورحم به أمة. Yusuf passed all those tests. As a result, guess what Allah did? رحم الله به أمة. Allah showed mercy and grace to an ummah because of Yusuf. The barakah of such an individual and the bala that they go through is that an ummah is helped because of them. The people of Egypt were saved. Yusuf's brothers were saved. His family was brought to Egypt. His father was cured, etc., etc. So everything because one person was a proper abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then here I am thinking, when I do something wrong, when I do something haram, oh, it's just me, whatever. No. These sins that we commit, they have an effect on the natural world, whether we like it or not. The secular people, they'll laugh at us. But that's what our sources are telling us. So this all brings me now to the calamity of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Yeah. If Yusuf, the people of his time, yeah, they were marhum and were subject to the rahmah of Allah as a result of his patience, then Imam Hussein alayhi salam, it goes without mentioning that his bala, because it's the highest of all balas, that other prophets of God, according to our hadiths, when they heard his story, they couldn't stop but weeping and couldn't eat for God knows how long. When his musibah happens, it's not just one ummah of one time that is going to be saved and secured, but guess what? Everybody who somehow connects with Imam Hussein alayhi salam is going to be affected positively in one way or another. Throughout time, brothers and sisters, throughout time, throughout history, I'll just give you like one story, okay? But we'll have other stories similar to these. God knows, you and I might have our own personal stories as a result of Imam Hussein. Yeah? Whether we like it or not, Imam Hussein, what's so special about Imam Hussein? Isn't Imam Hassan better than Imam Hussein? Isn't Imam Ali better than Imam Hussein? He himself said to his sister Zainab that they're better than me. Be patient. You were patient when you lost them. Be patient when you lose me. He said they're better than me. What is it though? What is it that Imam Hussein stands out? Although out of the 5 members of the cloak, of course Rasulullah is higher than him. Of course the rest. But what is it? Well, it's the tragedy. لقد عظمت المصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل السماوات والأرض. Like, are you kidding me? Of course something like this is going to have a very wide net that pulls in everybody. I'll give you one example. We have so many stories of thugs, problematic people who made their way back because of Imam Hussein. It's not even them having a dialogue with Imam Hussein or speaking to Imam Hussein. Just hearing about him or just knowing about him was enough to bring them back, although they spent their lives in haram and sin. One of those individuals, there's a story about him, like 50, 60 years ago maybe. There's a sheikh, he says, I was going for, Muharram lectures in one of these villages of Iran, or cities of Iran, wherever it was. On the night of Ashura, I come and I see everyone standing outside the Imam Bargah. No one's going inside. What's going on? Why aren't you going inside? They say that famous thug of the city, he's inside. He's yelling and screaming, and he's not. And we're afraid if we go in, he might attack us. If we confront him, he might attack us. What do? He says, okay, let me go in. He goes in. This guy is, obviously yelling and screaming, and then he's reciting a line of poetry while he's doing it. It's Farsi again. Tonight I'm doing a lot of poetry. He says, Burdand zarre zarre mah peikaran dilam ra. That little by little, now I'll word it like this, okay? I'll try to keep it as appropriate as I can. But the beautiful ones have taken me little by little, right? All these beautiful people out there, they're taking from me little by little, okay? He's talking about haram stuff. All right. Yek zarre digar mand ta qismatek ke bashad. There's one little piece of me left. In other words, I'm so awesome. I'm so great. Everyone wants a piece of me. Everyone wants a piece of me. And yeah, all of my pieces are gone. There's only one piece of me left. Let's see who's going to get that piece. Which beautiful person is going to get that piece? The sheikh says, I told him right away, I said, that last piece, keep that one for Imam Hussein. Don't give it to anybody else. This is the night of Ashura. The guy breaks down right there. Who has the power to confront someone with this much ego? Nobody. But Imam Hussein, someone who doesn't live now, lived 1400 years ago, who we never saw him, never saw what happened to him, just heard. This guy breaks down because that's enough for him and his ego to be destroyed. Allah raises an ummah. And ummahs, let's say plural, in different times and different people, all shapes and sizes and colors and backgrounds, because of the calamity that this one person went through. The guy breaks down. The sheikh says, all right, people, it's time to come back to the majlis now. Don't worry about him anymore. And all night, this person's in his own world. And after that, usually these people, they live very righteous lives. We might talk about one of them another night as well, inshallah. Yeah, so to sum it all up, brothers and sisters, number one, we were brought here for ubudiyya and to get closer and closer to Allah. The only way to get closer to Allah is to put aside the me, that ana, that ego that we have. And so there are different ways to do that, sometimes through worship, but worship has its vulnerabilities. Sometimes calamities befall us. Calamities are good because when your calamity befalls you, you're not arrogant about yourself anymore. You understand your weakness. Another difference is that because these calamities are coming from Allah, they have the potential to do a lot, while our worship is deficient. If we were to only rely on our worship, we probably wouldn't get anywhere. That's the difference between calamity and worship. But then when it comes to the calamities, there are some calamities that elevate us. Those are the calamities of normal people. And there are some calamities that elevate people and peoples in all times. And of course, the greatest of all calamities is the tragedy of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. On this night, we remember Muslim al-Aqil, who went through a little mini Karbala himself, who never made it to Karbala, which that itself I would say is a musibah, because the last thing that you want on your last moments is to see your head in the lap of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And that's one luxury that the shuhada of Karbala they had, that they, in those final moments, they find their head in the lap of Imam Hussein. Even Ali al-Akbar, that went so far away and was killed far from his father made it to him. He put his face to his head. Maybe it was too late, I don't know. Maybe he had lost his life already, but still Imam Hussein was there. Muslim is very madloom in this sense that, think about it, he's been gone and away from his family, from his master for months now. And so you want that moment to come where you embrace your family again, you embrace your master again. Some of us don't know this. Historians or scholars have said that Muslim didn't just have those two sons that were killed outside of Karbala. No, he also had children in Karbala. First of all, he's married to the sister of Imam Hussein. So the children of Muslim are the nephews and the nieces of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Remember that. And there are some that were killed in Karbala. And there's a little girl that he had, they say, that also died in Karbala. But anyway, Muslim, we all know his story. It reached the point where the battle ensues in the streets of Kufa after everyone has given him bay'ah. It's a mini Karbala. He's deserted eventually. The one who had so many followers has nobody now, just like Imam Hussein. And so he fights and fights under the scorching sun. They say he killed up to 41 people, some accounts say. And that's big. What would have this person done in Karbala if he was there? But it reached a point where he's just a human being and he loses to all of those that are around him. He's very, very thirsty. And so they say he sees a big container of water that he wants to drink from, and someone calls out, "You're not going to drink from it until you drink from the water of hellfire." They knock his teeth out. They bring him later on as he's captivated. They bring him containers of water to drink, but he can't drink from it. Every time he wants to drink from this container, the blood from his mouth fills the container with water. He dumps it out. "Give me another container of water." Eventually he can't drink water. This man has to leave this dunya with a thirsty mouth because he can't drink the water of this world. And so they take him up to Dar al-Imara. "Sallim ala al-Amir." Say salam to the Amir. He says, "I only have one Amir, Amiri Hussein, the one that I'm not going to see anymore." The time comes to execute him. They take him to the top of that palace. And as they want to strike his neck, they say he was crying or shaking. They say, why are you crying or shaking? A person who wants to do what you did should be ready for such a moment. He says, "No, I cry because I told Hussein, I sent him a letter. I said, come, everyone here is waiting for you. You're safe. Your women, your children, yourself. I know that they're coming here, but now I know the fate that they will suffer from." They struck his neck. It didn't take one blow. They say it took more than one blow to strike his neck until finally his head falls from that top all the way to the bottom. They throw his body off of the building and they drag his body, the horses, all across the city for everyone to see. And so when the news reaches Imam Hussein, when he's on his way to Karbala, that Muslim has been killed, they say he takes his niece, the daughter of Muslim, puts her in his lap, starts stroking her head, and he says, "I will be your father from now." She says, "What has happened?" "Your father has been killed. Muslim has been killed." From here, Hussein knows that things are not going to go the way they're supposed to go. A mini Karbala happened in Kufa. Now let us take our hearts to Karbala. Muslim, I just want to say a few things to Muslim. You said, "I want to drink from this water." And they said, "You won't drink until you drink from the water of hellfire." Imam Hussein, they say in those final moments, he was blacking out of thirst. He says, "I need some water." They said, no, you will not get water until you drink from the molten iron of Jahannam. "Oh Muslim, your teeth fell out." Imam Hussein's teeth were poked by Ubaidullah and Yazid. If you were alone, Hussein is alone. If it wasn't easy for your head to be severed, 2 blows were needed, not one. Hussein, they say 11 times, they had to strike the neck of Hussein to take off the head of Hussein. They didn't cut it off. They had to pull it off. 11 blows from behind. Muslim, your tragedy is great, but the tragedy of Abu Abdullah is greater. If Abu Abdullah took your daughter in his lap to let the people know when someone is orphaned, this is how you treat them. Guess what? They say the same Atika, the same daughter of Muslim, she died after the day of Ashura. One of those children that died and was trampled under the horses was Atika bint Muslim. Sallallahu alaykum, ya Ahl Bayt al-Nubuwah, wa ma'adnur risala, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. ماتم الحسين. يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين.
Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein.
Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein.
Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein. ننھی زہرا ہوں ذرا سمجھو ایسے نہ مارو ایسے نہ مارو ننھی زہرا ہوں ذرا سمجھو ایسے نہ مارو ایسے نہ مارو خود میں دیتی ہوں تمہیں خود میں دیتی ہوں تمہیں نوچو نہ یوں میرے گوہر ننھی زہرا ہوں ذرا سمجھو ایسے نہ مارو ایسے نہ مارو ننھی زہرا ہوں ذرا سمجھو ایسے نہ مارو ایسے نہ مارو مجھ کو اتنا تو بتا دو کہ بگاڑا کیا ہے ایک بیمار سوا میرا سہارا کیا ہے میرے صدموں نے جھکا میرے صدموں نے جھکا دی ہے جوانی میں کمر ننھی زہرا ہوں ذرا سمجھو ایسے نہ مارو ایسے نہ مارو ننھی زہرا ہوں ذرا سمجھو ایسے نہ مارو ایسے نہ مارو ننھی زہرا ہوں ذرا سمجھو ایسے نہ مارو ایسے نہ مارو میں تو کہتی ہوں ذبا کر خودوں سے نہ لے آؤ مجھ کو منظور ہے بابا سے ایسے ملواؤ ساتھ بابا کے کروں ساتھ بابا کے کروں گی میں خوشی سے یہ سفر ننھی زہرا ہوں ذرا سمجھو ایسے نہ مارو ایسے نہ مارو ننھی زہرا ہوں ذرا سمجھو ایسے نہ مارو ایسے نہ مارو کیا خدا نے نہیں دی تم کو کوئی اولادیں اپنے بچوں کی سنی تم نے نہیں ہے آہیں اس لیے ہوتا نہیں اس لیے ہوتا نہیں میرے یہ رونے کا اثر ننھی زہرا ہوں ذرا سمجھو ایسے نہ مارو ایسے نہ مارو ننھی زہرا ہوں ذرا سمجھو ایسے نہ مارو ایسے نہ مارو خود میں دیتی ہوں تمہیں خود میں دیتی ہوں تمہیں نوچو نہ یوں میرے گوہر ننھی زہرا ہوں ذرا سمجھو ایسے نہ مارو ایسے نہ مارو ننھی زہرا ہوں ذرا سمجھو ایسے نہ مارو ایسے نہ مارو کہاں سینہ کی یہ نوکیں کہاں معصوم سی جاں میں کہاں تک بھلا دوڑوں گی ان کے ساتھ یہاں بیٹھ بھی سکتی نہیں بیٹھ بھی سکتی نہیں تیرے تماچوں کا جو ڈر ننھی زہرا ہوں ذرا سمجھو ایسے نہ مارو ایسے نہ مارو ننھی زہرا ہوں ذرا سمجھو ایسے نہ مارو ایسے نہ مارو میں تو کہتی ہوں ذبح کر دوست نہ لے آؤ مجھ کو منظور ہے بابا سے ایسے ملواؤ ساتھ بابا کے کروں ساتھ بابا کے کروں گی یہ خوشی سے سفر ننھی زہرا ہوں ذرا سمجھو ایسے نہ مارو ایسے نہ مارو ننھی زہرا ہوں ذرا سمجھو ایسے نہ مارو ایسے نہ مارو حرف سارے ہی سلامت کہ یہ دم توڑ گئے تیرے ذاکر کی طرح جو بھی جہاں چھوڑ گئے دینا محشر میں انہیں دینا محشر میں انہیں اپنی عزا کا تو ثمر ننھی زہرا ہوں ذرا سمجھو ایسے نہ مارو ایسے نہ مارو ننھی زہرا ہوں ذرا سمجھو ایسے نہ مارو
یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین آغاز ہو رہا ہے کربل کی کہانی کا 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 لوگوں یہ جنازہ ہے اسلام کے بانی کا آغاز ہو رہا ہے کربل کی کہانی کا آغاز ہو رہا ہے کربل کی کہانی کا بی بی نے کہا بابا کربل میں چلے آنا بی بی نے کہا بابا کربل میں چلے آنا منظر میں دکھاؤں گی اکبر کی جوانی کا منظر میں دکھاؤں گی اکبر کی جوانی کا لوگوں یہ جنازہ ہے اسلام کے بانی کا آغاز ہو رہا ہے کربل کی کہانی کا آغاز ہو رہا ہے کربل کی کہانی کا کٹ جائیں گے بازو بھی عباس سے باوفا کے کٹ جائیں گے بازو بھی عباس سے باوفا کے تیروں سے ہوگا چھنی مشکیزہ وہ پانی کا تیروں سے ہوگا چھنی مشکیزہ وہ پانی کا لوگوں یہ جنازہ ہے اسلام کے بانی کا آغاز ہو رہا ہے کربل کی کہانی کا آغاز ہو رہا ہے کربل کی کہانی کا بکھرے گا کربلا میں قاسم کے سر کا صحرا بکھرے گا کربلا میں قاسم کے سر کا صحرا خوشیاں سمیٹ لے گا عالم وہ ویرانی کا خوشیاں سمیٹ لے گا عالم وہ ویرانی کا لوگوں یہ جنازہ ہے اسلام کے بانی کا آغاز ہو رہا ہے کربل کی جوانی کا آغاز ہو رہا ہے تا حشر میرے مولا مشتاق رہوں تیرا تا حشر میرے مولا مشتاق رہوں تیرا مل جائے شرف مجھ کو بس تیری غلامی کا مل جائے شرف مجھ کو بس تیری غلامی کا لوگوں یہ جنازہ ہے اسلام کے بانی کا آغاز ہو رہا ہے کربل کی کہانی کا آغاز ہو رہا ہے کربل کی کہانی کا یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین شبیر کی وہ لاڈلی شبیر کی وہ لاڈلی سینے پہ جوش آ کے پلی سینے کے جوش آ کے پلی جس کی ابا رن میں جلی جس کی ابا رن میں جلی منہ پر تما چوکے نشان مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین وہ عابد بیمار تھا وہ عابد بیمار تھا چلنے سے جو لاچار تھا چلنے سے جو لاچار تھا اور شام کا بازار تھا اور شام کا بازار تھا تھی مصطفیٰ کی بیٹیاں مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات. There is a few minutes in namaz, so whoever wants to make wuzu, please do so, and let us get organized for salat, please.
Brothers and sisters, I know that many of you have mentioned the air circulation. We are doing our utmost best. We do start the air conditioning, keep it running all night to keep the air cool here. I understand that it gets hot, it gets a little bit fussy. My request, humble request to you is to make sure you dress comfortably, bring some water to drink as well so that you feel comfortable. Inshallah, we will continue to manage the situation. If we can add more fans, we will do that. If there are other solutions that we can come up with, we will implement those solutions. Number two, niyaz distribution. I know, alhamdulillah, we are beyond capacity. We have looked at ways to increase our head counts, but again, today we're also going to fall short. So please listen to the volunteers as they're distributing the niyaz. It's not our intention to keep the niyaz from you. Our intention is to make sure that everybody receives their portion of the niyaz. So please continue to listen to the volunteers as you're exiting the building. And then finally, we do have security officers both at the women's entrance and the men's entrance. They're there to perform a job. Their job is to provide security. They're not there to carry your bags inside. They're not there really to hold the door open for you. So as they're doing their job, please respect them. You don't have to go up to them and have a conversation. Allow them to do their job. Again, I know the air is a major concern. We'll continue to address that. Please be patient with us. And that's the best I can ask for you right now. And inshallah, if we can come up with a better solution, we will implement. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.